Welcome back, everyone. RacerX here, and today I'm back with my good buddies at Stingray Chevrolet in Plant City, Florida, because they have two cars that I wanted to compare for you guys today. Both naturally aspirated monsters, a supercar from the US and a supercar from Europe. This one should be a ton of fun. If you guys are brand new to the channel, please don't forget to hit subscribe right over here, and off we go.
T-minus 15 seconds.
Today, I am back at the Dream Giveaway Garage, and I want to give you a quick tour, just a quick look around to show you all of the amazing cars that you can enter to win at Dream Giveaway. It is pretty epic. Check this out right over here. This is their Escalade V giveaway. You get a CT5V Blackwing and an Escalade V in the same exact giveaway. It's really epic. I love both of these two cars. You can enter to win those. Right over here, you've got two big block old school Chevys. You've got a Chevelle right there. And then of course, right over here, you have a Camaro. Both of those two cars paired together. Right here, you've got their brand new, newly announced Challenger giveaway. You've got a 2023 Super Stock and a 1970 Challenger owned by the president of Chrysler. How cool is that? You've got a highly modified C8 Corvette with a Magnuson supercharger on it. This thing has all sorts of work done to it. It's actually getting paired with an old school Corvette that they will have here shortly, and I can show you guys that in more detail. Check this out, a Porsche GT4 RS. That is being given away by itself. Right over here, you've got a Z06 that's got all sorts of carbon fiber stuff all over it. Gorgeous car. And of course, you have a Silverado right here as well. That's got some pretty cool features to it. Right over here, you've got a Shelby. Check this thing out. Supercharged Shelby Mustang right next to the Shelby truck. This is a Centennial Edition Mustang. Both of these two are being given away in the same giveaway. And then right over here, the Mustang Dark Horse and an F-150. That is an electric truck. Both of those two cars. All you have to do is go to Dream Giveaway's website to enter, use my code RacerX to get three times the entries for one price.
Hell yes.
And I will pin a link in the description down below. Just take a look at all of these epic rides. Go enter to win. And directly behind me are the two cars that I wanted to show you today. This is a C8 Z06, and this is an Audi R8. Both of them mid-engine, both of them naturally aspirated, both of them supercars, one from Europe, one from the US, as I mentioned before, and the comparisons don't stop there. Take a look at the profiles on both of these two beautiful supercars. Of course, the C8 Z06 from the US and the Audi R8 from Germany. And they really do look very different. There are a lot of similarities between these two cars. They both have naturally aspirated engines that are very high performing. They're both mid-engine, which means they're sitting right behind your head. But just look at the angles on this Corvette Z06. It might be hard to pick up on camera, but that vent right on the side is absolutely massive. And this thing just looks like it would cut you if it went by you. Just crazy angles on this car. And then you get over here to the Audi, and it's a little more understated. I mean, don't be fooled. This thing has a naturally aspirated V10 sitting right behind your head, and it just has a very sleek design to it. I actually really do like the lines on the Audi R8. They've been making this car for quite some time. Almost more of a Bugatti type line on this thing. So it doesn't look quite so angular like the C8, but boy, these two cars are beautiful in person. Now, one feature of the Z06 compared to the regular C8 is it has center exhaust like you see here. Just look at all the crazy angles on the back of this car. And I really do like that center exhaust profile. If this was a regular C8, the exhaust would be kind of off to the side like over here. But I just wanted to give you a quick look at the back of this car, just how crazy the angles are on this. And then as you get over here to the Audi, I do really like this carbon fiber piece on the side of the Audi. Like I said, a little more understated, but it's very tasteful and it looks really nice. But even when you get back here, a little more understated. The car does sit pretty low and pretty wide. You may not be able to pick that up on camera, but it has massive exhaust tips. But it's, you know, you got the single on each side, right? So technically you've got dual exhaust tips on this, but they're really big. And so it definitely stands out as well. A couple of quick qualifiers when it comes to the Audi R8. This is a 2021 model year car, and yes, they come in both a regular V10 and a performance version. This is the non-performance version. I really wish they had a performance version because I think it would stack up against the Z06 a little bit better, but they don't, and finding an R8 is actually pretty darn hard to find. So this was actually the first year they went to the rear-wheel drive, and the horsepower actually went down just a little bit from the previous year's performance model. So this one actually makes 532 horsepower and 398 pound-feet of torque out of that naturally aspirated V10, but it sounds absolutely glorious. There you can see that carbon fiber bit saying that it is a V10, and boy, that actually is an engine. It's a little bit watered down from what they put in Lamborghini Huracan, but essentially the same engine. I think that is so cool. And when you get over here to the Z06, this is the LT6. That is a hand-built engine, 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8. This is actually the most powerful naturally aspirated engine the Americans have ever put in a car, and 670 horsepower on this beast and 460 pound-feet of torque. This thing sounds absolutely insane. It revs to the moon. Like 8,500 RPM is pretty standard for this engine, and it absolutely sounds glorious. So this thing actually has about 150 more horsepower, despite the fact that it's down 2 cylinders compared to the Audi over here. Now, if this was a performance model, it would be about 602 horsepower and all-wheel drive, which would be great, but what do you do? I want to talk about the wheel setup on these two cars because the Z06 definitely has an advantage when it comes to the wheel and tire setup in my mind. They both come with 20-inch wheels on the front. This is actually a 245 in the front on the Audi R8, and over here on the Z06 you get a 275 on the front. Both of these things have big old calipers, so you know that they're going to stop on a dime. And as you jump back here to the back of the Audi, that is a 20-inch 305 in the back. And then if you jump over here to the Z06, that is a 21-inch wheel with a 345 on the back. That is a big old wide tire in the back of this Z06. So a lot more tire patch on the Z06 compared to the R8. Both of these two cars, being that they are mid-engine, come with a storage compartment in the front. You can see here's the one on the Z06, not a ton of room in the front of this car. And then when you get over here to the Audi R8, maybe slightly bigger, but really the well in this is almost exactly the same size. It does have these little areas kind of off to the side. You cannot put much in the front of either one of these two cars, but it is there. Now, a great feature of the C8 Z06 compared to the R8 is the fact that you actually get a trunk in the Z06. You can see it's a fair amount of space, not a ton of space, but then again, you've got a big old naturally aspirated 5.5 liter engine sitting right there, and they still managed to give you a little bit of space. I don't know if you could fit golf clubs in here. They've obviously got a few things here. And of course, this is made to buckle the roof in. You can see these right here. You can actually take the roof and put it in there, which I absolutely love that about Corvettes. And as you get over here to the Audi, no such luck on the Audi. I do love all the carbon fiber bits that come near the engine. Love the fact that it has a V10, but you don't get a little trunk space here. Here is the driving position of the Audi R8. I absolutely love this two-tone interior, and this feels like an absolutely fantastic place to sit. You can see your climate controls here. Here you've got your gear selector. Right over here, you can do quite a bit with this little guy. You can see they don't have a big central infotainment screen right over here. You just have your vents. Right over here, you have a really nice digital display. You can do all sorts of stuff on this. Your start-stop button off here to the right. You can select your drive modes off there to the left. And of course, you've got radio and phone controls there right on your steering wheel. Really nice steering wheel with a flat bottom on it. You can see you've even got diamond stitching here on the roof, which is suede. And if you jump over here to the passenger side, obviously both of these two cars are 2 doors, but beautiful red seats with the diamond stitching. This is a really nice place to sit inside the Audi R8, as you would expect of any supercar of this caliber. I'm actually in the car cooling off just a little bit. It is insanely hot here in Florida today, as you can imagine. Summertime in Florida, right? One of the little quirky things I found out about the R8, if you look right here between the seats, you've actually got a couple of SD ports. So if you want to go ahead and load your music in, it's pretty easy to do. Here Here is the driving position of the 2023 Corvette C8 Z06, and it feels very business-like in here. Much more of a cockpit type feel, very driver-centric versus the Audi, which is more of a neutral driving position. You can see the steering wheel even with both a flat bottom and a flat top on it, suede, really nice place. You can see those big paddle shifters there, really nice gauge cluster there, all digital, just like in the Audi. Now this one does have a central infotainment screen right there at the driver's fingertips. Now you actually have your drive selector right here. You select your park, all that good stuff, drive modes, all that right here in the center. Couple of cup holders here. I really do like these seats. They look a little more aggressive than in the Audi. The Audi has more luxury cues in it, I would say. A lot more angles in this Corvette. Even up there on the dash, you have heads-up display on this. Just a very different look and feel inside the Corvette. One of the things I love about the Corvette is the fact that the roof, as you can see right here, actually comes off and goes into the trunk, like I mentioned when I was showing you the back of the vehicle. So if you want to go kind of convertible, sort of takes me back to the old like T-top days, that is always an option on a Corvette versus in the R8, not an option. I want to talk just a second about the statistics on these two cars. I feel like this is such an interesting comparison between two naturally aspirated supercars from opposite sides of the world. So when you talk about the C8 Z06, the one I'm in now, 5.5 liter flat plane crank V8, as I mentioned, 670 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. Obviously that is a base model, that is not a performance model. I will give you some of the performance model stats as well. But on that car, 5.2 liter, naturally aspirated V10, 532 horsepower, 398 pound-feet of torque. The base on that car is about $143,000 versus the C8 Z06. The base is around $115,000. So from a base perspective, the Z06 is the bargain of the two. When it comes to transmission, this one has an 8-speed dual clutch or DCT. The Audi also has a dual clutch transmission, a 7-speed. So both of these have pretty good transmissions. A lot of the reviews say that the Audi kind of lacks just a little bit when it comes to the transmission. The transmission in this thing is bad to the bone. They both rev to the moon like 8,500 RPMs. 0 to 60 in this car is 2.6 seconds. That is insane without boost. So this is an unbelievably quick car considering that it's naturally aspirated and a V8. 0 to 60 in that one, 3.6 seconds. So about a second slower. Although if it were a performance model, it would be all-wheel drive and have more power. They actually say that that thing will go as fast as like 2.7 0 to 60, so very, very close in the performance model R8. Quarter mile, 10.5 at 131 in the C8 Z06, 10.6 and right around 130 miles an hour in the R8 performance. Now the non-performance right around 11 seconds. The top speed is actually faster in the Audi, 201 for the non-performance car, which is sitting there, and about 206 for the performance model. It's 195 mile an hour in the C8 Z06. So like I said, the Audi is a little bit faster top speed wise. Talk about fuel economy. Well, no one cares about that. Actually, you don't buy these for fuel economy. We'd already talked about the tires. From a weight perspective, when you look at these two cars right next to each other, you realize the C8 Z06 is a bigger car. It's taller, it's longer, it looks a little bit bigger compared to the R8. I've seen publications say that it's 3,800 pounds. I could have sworn this car was a little bit lighter than that, but they say it's 3,800 pounds. The R8 comes in right around 3,600 pounds, so the R8 is slightly lighter. But as I mentioned, the car is smaller. When you look at it, you can definitely see it. And both of these two cars are rear wheel drive. So the comparison is pretty interesting between the two. On paper, this car should have the advantage over the non-performance car. It'd be really interesting, like on the street, if you were to race the performance model versus the, versus this car in the C8 Z06. I'm gonna take these two cars down the road because I wanna see what the driving experience is like, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. I am now aboard the Audi R8, and this really is a neat mixture of luxury and performance. It doesn't feel quite as cutting edge as the C8 Z06, as I mentioned. I mean, the C8 Z06 feels like a cockpit, a little more refined in this one. The V10 sounds absolutely fantastic, although it is not as loud, not even close to as loud on startup as the Z06. I want to kind of take this down the road and see how it performs. So I went ahead and selected dynamic mode, which is the most aggressive of the modes. want to go ahead and give this thing just a little bit of gas here, kind of see how it sounds. Listen to that. Yes. Car sounds good. There's just something about having a naturally aspirated V10 sitting right behind your head. If you're not used to it, it just takes a little getting used to. I don't know what else to say. Listen to this thing. Nice and smooth. Sounds really good. You can really hear that V10 back there revving out. Listen to the downshifts. Car is nice. It's nice and smooth, this car. It doesn't feel out of control at all. It feels pretty refined, but it's got just the right amount of quickness. It doesn't feel crazy fast. It doesn't feel like I'm even trying to break the tires loose, but it still feels quick and darty. You can really let this thing wind out. I want to kind of let the engine wind out just a little bit. I'm on kind of a bumpy road, but listen to it. Get it up in the power band, that's when this car becomes happy. You really have to wind this thing out to see what it's all about in an R8. And that's part of what makes it fun, right? Anytime you've got smaller displacement, lots of cylinders, that's exactly what the joy in driving a car like this. You know, a couple of downshifts, kind of give it a nice smooth acceleration. Listen to that 10-cylinder behind my head. It's great. This is the kind of car that you could get in and enjoy literally all day. And when you want it, the power is there. I mean, just listen to it. It's so good on a nice little smooth road like this. Let it get an RPM band. There it goes. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. It's a very fun car to drive. It does feel very buttoned down. It's very smooth. I don't know what else to say about it. I've never driven an R8 until today, but the car drives really nice. It'll be interesting to see how it compares to the Z06, if the Z06 has a more visceral feel or not. But I do like the R8. I mean, it's fun. Does it justify $150,000, $170,000 price? That remains to be seen. We'll see how the Corvette does. I am now aboard the C8 Z06, and I have to admit, I know I've mentioned it already, but this is definitely a much roomier interior than the Audi. And you wouldn't think so looking at the two cars. You would almost think the Audi would be more roomy because it doesn't have this cockpit type feel. But when it comes to just headspace, look at all this. And you actually feel like your legs have more room in this one too. Just something I noticed immediately, like if you're a taller person, you may not actually like the Audi R8. I was actually talking to Norm. He's the guy that I work with here at Stingray Chevrolet. Awesome guy. He's a pretty tall dude, like 6'4". He says he does not like the Audi because he just feels claustrophobic in it versus the Corvette where he feels like there's a ton of room in it. So it's just very different from a driving perspective. At initial startup, I noticed the Z06 is significantly louder than the R8. I kind of thought it might be the opposite, obviously with a V10, but this 8-cylinder flat plane crank is just a monster under the hood. Like I said, this makes a lot more horsepower, about 150 more horsepower. And the second you start it, I mean, it almost sounds just like that snap of like an F1 car or something like that. I realize it's kind of a weird comparison, but the way this thing revs, I mean, it's very snappy and abrupt. So let's put it down the road. Listen to this V8. Here it goes. Give it some RPM. Listen to the downshifts. You almost have to drive these cars like you're pissed off. If you're not listening to Metallica or something just insane, you're not driving these cars right. You got to really listen to them to appreciate them. And you know, it's kind of like the GT350, right? I mean, it's like you just really have to drive the crap out of it, let it rev out, and just enjoy it. And that's one of the great things about it. When you talk about something like an EV, you don't get any aspect of like sound when it comes to those cars. Yes, they're fast, but there's something about being fast and having that visceral sound right behind your head going crazy that makes it feel faster. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just what it is. Listen to this V8 rev out. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. How do you not smile ear to ear when you drive this car. It does feel like it has more power than the R8, well, because it does. I mean, you can definitely feel both of these two cars. You really have to wind them out to get to the sweet spot in the power band. That's just what it's like with these naturally aspirated high revving engines. But when you have a little bit of a stretch of road in front of you and you have the will to do it, boy, you can really listen to the car sing. You can feel it put you back in the seat, and you get that big grin on your face. Now, from a handling perspective, I don't feel like they're all that different. They're both really darty. You can feel the Z06 just working. It's not any big deal for this car to take corners really fast, but I feel like the R8 is very capable. I know this car at real speed would be more capable than the R8. It's a little hard for me. I've always loved Corvettes, but it's a little hard for me to see how the R8 outperforms this car in any way. I mean, this car just feels faster, it feels louder, it feels more visceral. The interior, I feel like, while it's maybe not quite as buttoned down, it definitely feels like a weapon in this car. And when you listen to it, it sounds like a weapon. I just can't get over it. Listen. Whine, whine, whine. Oh, yes. I'm really enjoying this heads-up display because it's telling me exactly what's going on. Got one more little shot here for second gear. Oh, yes. This car is an absolute monster. I love the fact that they went naturally aspirated with the Z06. As I mentioned, the C7 Z06, they went boosted, but this car actually outperforms the boosted version in the old C7. So there's a lot to be said for naturally aspirated horsepower and all the engineering that went into this LT6 engine. And boy, is this car fun to drive when you get a little bit of open road. I imagine if you had a road course or Tail of the Dragon or something like that, you could really, really enjoy this car. But when you compare this to the R8's a little more buttoned down. This one is just it's just a more visceral driving experience. It's more of a driver's car. I don't want to take anything away from the R8 because the R8 is still really, really fast and it's a really good car to drive. It just doesn't stack up all that well against the C8 Z06. That is my honest opinion about it. If you guys ever get a chance to drive both cars, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But for me, it's the Corvette. And there you have it. That is my comparison of the C8 Z06 and the Audi R8. Both of these two cars are absolutely fantastic, a ton of fun to drive. The Z06 perhaps a little bit more visceral with the additional power, the additional sound, all that good stuff, but they are both a lot of fun. Had this been a performance model, I think it would have been very, very even. But at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with either one of these two amazing naturally aspirated supercars. Let me know which one you guys would take in the comments down below, and I will catch you on the next one. So until then, RacerX.